I, the reason I got into this work to begin with was years ago, I'd say 30 years ago, I was training as a national class athlete in Boulder, Colorado, and I felt stuck. I felt like I wasn't going any further. And I read about some things that people were doing, and my background was psychology, so it seemed like a natural to me. So I got into it, and what happened was immediately I started to refocus my attention. So instead of going on outcomes and results and being so concerned and obsessed with what happens in the outcome, I started getting more into the process. And I started seeing that when I would show up for a race or competition, I wouldn't be as anxious and nervous about things I can't control. Because a lot of times you just cannot control those outcomes, and it makes you tight and tentative. And so I learned something when I read that, and what I did, I started to apply it in my everyday athleticism, and I noticed that I would show up, and boy, I would just be there and wondering about how my breathing's going, and how my stride is, and how my gait is, and how my carriage, and how I'm carrying my arms when I'm running. And the same thing with cycling. You know, I'd focus in on the process of the pedaling itself, and spinning, and the wheels, and pulling back on the bars when I'm climbing, and things like this. And when I would visualize, when I would meditate and quiet my mind, and I do that for a week before, what I noticed is that I would go into the competition feeling well rehearsed, like I had been there before. I remember one of the marathons that I entered one time, rather close to here too, by the way, 26-mile event over the hill, over the Santa Cruz Mountains. I remember in my mind mentally preparing for that every single day, so that when I got on that course, I knew what to expect. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't like a surprise. I knew what was going to be there. And when I got there, it was like, I've been here already. So it helped to put me in a place where I could just shed all of that anxiety and tension, worrying about what I can't control, and I started to focus in when I could. When I did that, I really started to see differences. I started to win races, and by the way, that was a race that I did win. That was one of my first big wins as a runner. And I continued that pattern throughout all the races, and if I didn't win, I usually would get my best time, or if I didn't get my best time, I'd have a good race. There are times when you're not going to, there's no guarantee mental training is going to give you something that's not going to be there for you. But what it will do is will put you in position, if not to be the best, to at least more often than not be the best that you can be. So that mental training, I feel, is responsible for a lot of things in my competitive days. But right now, to be honest with you, all the work that I've done here with you today and everything I do in my life, I use my mind and not leave it to chance. I try to go into a situation, an event, or some kind of an activity where my mind is focused and I'm ready to go. And it's very satisfying, very satisfying.